Hey there, guitar fanatics. If you want to get really good at playing pentatonic scales, then you're going to love this video. Why? Because I'm going to take you through a series of exercises I've developed to help you achieve true fluency. Skills that go way beyond memorizing a couple of box shapes. This lesson is going to show you not only how pentatonic scales are made up, but also how to quickly and easily change between pentatonic scales as the chords you're playing over change, which is the real key to sounding more like legendary players that use a lot of pentatonics. Dickie Betts, John Mayer, Joe Bonamassa, Eric Johnson, or even more modern players that rely heavily on pentatonics like Matteo Sasato or Larry Basilio. And we're going to do it in a way that's way more fun and musical than your normal practice grind. If you really want to get good at this stuff, this is the video for you. Ready to jump in? I'm Charlie Long. Let's play some guitar. Now, what makes these exercises so effective is that we're going to be accomplishing multiple things as we play through them. Number one, we're going to start with small phrases on just a couple of strings, and then we're going to move on to longer patterns as we go. Number two, we're going to be playing over a 2-chord backing track, and we're going to change the pentatonic scale that we're using each time that the chord changes. Number three, we're going to be changing between those two pentatonic scales, staying in the same position. Number four, we're also going to learn how to move from position to position smoothly and fluidly, because very often we do want to move around the guitar neck for effect when we solo. So let's get going. So we're going to be playing over this backing track in the key of G major with the chords G major and C major. So playing from the 1 chord to the 4 chord in the key of G, the tempo is a comfortable 92 beats a minute. Now this 1 chord to 4 chord vamp is super common in rock and pop. Think Allman Brothers, John Mayer, the Grateful Dead. And the two pentatonic scales that we're going to be using are G major and C major. Now, from a theory standpoint, there are two things you need to know to get the most out of these exercises. The first one is that there is only one different note between G major and C major pentatonic. The G major scale has the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. We could call those notes also the root, the second, major third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and major seventh. G major pentatonic and C major pentatonic are both subsets of the G major scale. The major pentatonic scale has the formula root, second, major third, fifth, and sixth. So G major pentatonic has the notes G, A, B, D, and E. And for C major, the root is obviously C, the second is D, the major third is E, the fifth is G, and the sixth is A. So in essence, take G major pentatonic, swap out the B note for a C note, and we've got C major pentatonic. The second thing is, and this should be a big aha moment, for any of the 5 box patterns we use for G major, a box pattern for C major sits right there with it on the fretboard. Now the number of the pattern is going to be different. Let's look at G major pattern 1 here at the 3rd fret. Well, there's a C major pattern here too. But it's pattern 4 of C major. So the pattern numbers are always going to be 3 different. If you already know your patterns pretty well, there's a hack for you. And if you don't know them really well with these exercises, they're going to ingrain them. So let's play. Our first exercise involves playing the notes of G major and C major pentatonics on 3 strings. And we're starting with G major pentatonic on the low E, A, and D strings. So for our G major pattern 1, we've got G and A at frets 3 and 5 of the low E, and then the notes B, D, E, and G on frets 2 and 5 of the A and D strings. So let's play 16th notes, and we're going to ascend from G to G, and then back down to G, and then ascend again to the D note on the A string, which we're going to hold for an 8th note. So that whole thing sounds like this. And here's what should be another aha moment for you. You can take this same pattern, play it on the A, D, and G strings, and we've got C major pentatonic with the notes C, D, E, G, A, and C. In the C major pattern, it sounds like this. And even without a backing track, I can already hear the chord change from the notes we're playing. And this works all the way up the fretboard. We've got G major pattern 2 at the 5th fret. So each string we play frets 5 and 7. Move it over to the A string, use the same pattern to get our C major pentatonic. We've got G major pattern 3 and C major pattern 1 at the 8th fret. G major pattern 4, C major pattern 2 at the 10th fret. G major pattern 5, C major pattern 3 at the 12th fret. And then we return to our starting point up an octave with G major pattern 1 and C major pattern 4 at the 15th fret. I'll play this whole thing, taking it up the neck like that over our backing track. Let's have a listen. Okay, on to exercise number 2, which is another 3-string exercise, but this time we're going to play on the G, B, and high E strings. And here, because of the tuning of the B string, the patterns are going to be different, but that really makes the switch from the B note to the C note evident when it happens. And so what we're going to do, we're going to ascend through the patterns, starting with the first note on the G string all the way up to the second note that we would play on the high E string. We're going to then descend down to our starting note and then ascend again up to the first note on the high E string. Now, I'm not going to go through it and name all the notes because they're right there on the diagram, and there's a lot more exercises I want to get to today. But here's how the G pattern sounds. And switching to C, all I have to do is remember to play a C note instead of the B note. So if you don't know your notes that well, again, they're right there in the diagram. But here's how the C pattern sounds. Here are the two patterns together. Now let's take this exercise all the way up the fretboard over the backing track. Exercise number 3, we're going to take the patterns that we just played and make them sound a lot more musical by adding this little back and forth stair step pattern that sounds like something that Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers would have played. Here's the sequence of the lick, starting with G major pattern 1 at the 3rd fret. We're going to play the 2 notes on the G string and the first note on the B string. Then we go back to the second note that we played on the G string. Then we're going to play the second note on the B string, and then back to that second note on the G string. So we're playing the notes A, B, D, B, E, B. And then we're going to move that pattern to the B and E strings, and we're going to play D, E, G, E, A, E. and finish it off with the G on the high E, and then E and D on the B strings. It sounds like this. And then we play the same pattern using the notes of C major pentatonic. It's a cool little pattern, and it's something that you can put right into a solo because it sounds like a lick and not a scale exercise. Let's play it through, all the patterns up the neck over our backing track. Check it out. Sounding good. Now for exercise number 4, we're going to stretch out over 4 strings. And if you're wondering why we're doing this and not playing through the entire 6-string pattern, it's because I want you to get used to starting licks from any point within a scale, not just starting from the root note and running through the scale like a trained monkey. If you're finding that starting on a note other than the root note is throwing you off, well, it kind of proves my point that just memorizing a scale pattern, it doesn't mean that you really know the scale. So yes, there is a method to the madness here. We'll get started by playing 16th notes right up the D, G, B, and E strings in G major, and turn it around by playing the highest note on the E string a second time, descend back to the starting note. And of course, do the same thing for C major pentatonic. And then take it all the way up the fretboard. Here we go over our backing track. So now let's turn those 4-string patterns into Dickie Betts licks too. We're going to ascend through the first 4 notes on the D and G strings. When we get to the B string, we're going to start our back and forth stair step movement. So for G major pentatonic, we're going to play E, G, A, B, and then the D on the B string, B on the G string, E on the B string, B on the G string again. Then we're going to play D and E on the B string, G on the high E, E on the B, A on the high E, and then E on the B string again. And then we're going to finish with the G note on the E string. All together, it sounds like this. C major pentatonic sounds like this. And of course, I want you to take it up the fretboard through the different positions and patterns. Let's do the whole neck over that backing track. Let's try one more. For exercise number 5, we're going to use another 3-string pattern, but this time we are not going to play G major and C major in the same position. We're going to shift positions each time we have a chord change. So here's that pattern on the G, B, and E strings. So starting down at the 3rd fret area for G major pentatonic, we're going to ascend from A to A, play back down to the D on the B string, up to the A on the high E again, and then back down to the D on the B string, which we then hold for an 8th note. Then, rather than repeating the pattern for C in that position, we're going to jump to the 5th fret and play C major. From there, we're going to go to the 7th fret for G major, the 10th fret for C major, the 12th fret for G major, 15th fret for C major, the 17th fret for G major, and lastly the 20th fret area for C major. And we're out of frets. But guess what? We're not out of strings. What if we fall back, use that same exercises on the low E, A, and D strings? Well, that would sound like this. Start at the 3rd fret, we've got G. At the 5th fret, C. All the way up the neck. And then you'd want to take that exercise to the A, D, and G strings, then the D, G, and B strings. And if you can get to where you can fluidly complete this exercise on all those string sets of 3 strings, well, you're going to be well on your way to truly mastering the pentatonic scale. Let's hear those patterns on the G, B, and E strings over our backing track. So there you have it. 5 exercises that if you really apply yourself and work through them, it's going to put you way down the road to being a master of pentatonic scales. Now, it's on you to put the time in, but the tools, well, they're right here if you want it. Learning scales from notes other than the root, turning scale fragments into little phrases and sequences, and being able to move those patterns fluidly around the fretboard. These are all higher level skills that will just skyrocket your ability to solo and improvise. And if you liked this video on pentatonic scales, go check out this one because it's awesome too. And I'll see you soon.